We live in a world that has ingrained in us a certain belief about money, a belief that is deeply rooted in centuries of societal conditioning. This belief tells us that wealth and abundance are built on hard work, sacrifice, and tireless effort. We've been told generation after generation that if you put in the hours, grind it out, and push yourself to the limit, money will eventually follow. It's a story that's been sold to us through the industrial age, corporate culture, and even through our upbringing. The idea is simple. If you work harder, you will earn more. If you give more, you will receive more. But what if everything you've been taught about money is a lie? What if I told you that money doesn't respond to effort at all? What if wealth operates on a completely different principle? One that has little to do with how much you sacrifice or how many hours you clock in. What if the key to unlocking abundance isn't about doing more, but about becoming more? The truth is, there's a frequency to money, a resonance, and when you align with it, everything shifts effortlessly. This concept isn't just an abstract idea. It's rooted in both quantum mechanics and ancient wisdom. The more you learn about these principles, the clearer it becomes that wealth is not something you can grind out through sheer determination. Instead, it's something you must resonate with, vibrate in harmony with, and allow to flow into your life. And once you make that shift in your thinking, once you realize that money is not a product of labor, but a byproduct of frequency, everything changes. Let's delve deeper into this. For centuries, humans have misunderstood the true source of wealth. We've built our societies around the idea that hard work is the ultimate path to success. The Industrial Revolution intensified this belief. People were conditioned to think that in order to succeed, they had to work harder, longer, and sacrifice more. The idea of exhaustion became a badge of honor. In fact, burnout was often mistaken for dedication. People became proud of how hard they worked, of how much they struggled, believing that their sacrifice was the key to their success. But what if the truth is different? What if the wealthiest people don't work the hardest? What if they work differently? What if their success comes not from labor, but from understanding an invisible law of nature, a law that governs not what you do, but how you think and feel? The most successful people have learned that money is not a reward for physical output. It's a reflection of the energy you put out into the world. They've discovered that money is not something you work for, it's something you align with energetically. Wallace Wattles, an early 20th century writer and philosopher, understood this concept long before quantum physics began to explain it. In his book The Science of Getting Rich, Wattles talked about the thinking substance, an intelligent field that permeates all of reality. This substance doesn't respond to your physical actions, it responds to your thoughts, beliefs, and emotions. Whatever you hold in your mind, whatever you feel with conviction, begins to materialize. This is not magic, it's mechanics. And this principle is supported by quantum mechanics, which shows that consciousness and matter are interconnected. In essence, the act of observation affects the outcome. What you focus on, what you feel and believe becomes your reality. Now, think about the moments in your life when things came to you effortlessly. Perhaps you had an idea, and suddenly the perfect opportunity appeared out of nowhere. Or someone offered you exactly what you needed at the right time. Maybe money showed up without you chasing it. When those moments occurred, what was your internal state like? I'm willing to bet that you weren't stressed, anxious, or forcing things. You were likely relaxed, open, and in flow. And in that state, your frequency shifted. Instead of struggling, you became a magnet for what you desired, and the universe responded accordingly. That's the secret. It's not about working harder, it's about vibrating at a higher frequency. It's about shifting from the frequency of survival scarcity consciousness into the frequency of abundance wealth consciousness. When you make that shift, the external world has no choice but to reorganize itself around your new energy. The universe mirrors your frequency, and what you vibrate, you attract. Scarcity and abundance are not just abstract concepts. They are energetic states that can be measured. Scarcity contracts. It causes stress, tightness, and a focus on survival. It literally shrinks your electromagnetic field, reducing your ability to attract abundance. Abundance, on the other hand, expands. It opens your heart, relaxes your breath, and increases your energetic presence. When you embody abundance, your energy field amplifies, drawing opportunities, people, and resources toward you. Think about someone you know who seems to attract success effortlessly. There's something about them, right? They carry a sense of ease, confidence, and a belief that things will work out. They're not desperate or chasing after opportunities, they simply expect things to come to them. This isn't luck, it's frequency. They've learned how to broadcast a signal that says, "I already have what I need," and the universe reflects that abundance back to them. Contrast this with someone who is always stressed about money. They work tirelessly, always worried, always grinding, but no matter how hard they work, it never feels like enough. Why is that? Because their frequency is locked into lack. Their every action, no matter how hard, is infused with the energy of scarcity. The universe can only reflect what they are emitting, so they continue to see evidence of scarcity and lack, no matter how hard they work. This is the trap that most people find themselves in. They follow the conventional advice, work harder, sacrifice more, and the money will come. But it doesn't work. It can't. You can't hustle your way out of a frequency problem. No amount of physical effort will shift your energetic state if you're not aligned with abundance. You need to change your frequency, not your actions. Wallace Wattles referred to this idea as doing things in a certain way. Not just any way, there's a specific way of operating that aligns with abundance. It's not about how hard you work, it's about the energy you bring to your work, the internal tone you bring to every action. When you act from scarcity, your actions lack energy. When you act from abundance, your actions are potent, powerful, and aligned with the flow of the universe. So, how do you shift your frequency? How do you move from scarcity to abundance, especially when your current circumstances seem to contradict the idea of abundance? This is the question that stops most people in their tracks. They don't see how they can vibrate abundance when they're surrounded by evidence of lack. But here's the secret. Frequency is not about denying reality. It's about choosing which reality you're aligning with. There are infinite possible futures available to you right now. In one, you continue struggling, working hard, and fighting for every penny. In another, you thrive effortlessly, with opportunities flowing to you naturally. Both realities exist as potentialities in the quantum field. The reality that manifests is the one you choose to embody. It's the frequency you hold most consistently. Not the one you hope for, not the one you wish for, but the one you feel into, the one you embody as if it's already real. This is where faith becomes practical. Faith, in this context, isn't about blind belief or hoping things will get better. It's the ability to hold a frequency that doesn't yet match your current reality. It's the willingness to feel wealthy before the wealth arrives, to feel grateful before the evidence appears, to vibrate at the level of your desired reality even when your present reality looks different. This is the bridge that takes you from one timeline to another. And now, let's make this tangible. Wherever you are, take a deep breath. Breathe deeply into your belly, and as you exhale, let go of the need to figure out how. Let go of the need to control the outcome. Let go of the anxiety about money just for this moment. And in that space, imagine what it would feel like if money were no longer an issue. Not in a fantasy way, but in a real embodied way. What would your body feel like? What would your energy feel like? What would your breath feel like? That feeling right there is the frequency of abundance. And the more you practice returning to that state, the more you're training your nervous system to broadcast that signal. You're rewiring your energetic field. And as you do, the universe begins to respond not because you're manipulating it, but because you're aligning with it. You're tuning into the channel where abundance already exists. Of course, action is still required. You still need to move, create, and participate in the world. But the quality of your actions changes. Instead of desperate grasping, you flow. Instead of forcing, you allow. Instead of working from a place of, "I have to make this happen," you work from a place of, "I get to express this." That shift in tone changes everything. When you take action from a place of abundance, your actions carry a different weight. They're infused with certainty instead of doubt, creativity instead of survival instinct, joy instead of obligation. And people feel that. Opportunities sense that. Money responds to that. Because at a fundamental level, everything is energy. and energy always seeks resonance. This is why gratitude is so powerful. Not gratitude as a spiritual bypass, not gratitude as a way to pretend everything's fine when it's not, but gratitude as a frequency shifter. When you genuinely appreciate what you already have, even if it's small, you're telling the universe there is enough. And when you broadcast that message, the universe says, "Okay, here's more." This is how the law of attraction works, not by wishing or hoping, but by embodying the energy of abundance and allowing it to flow freely into your life. The more you resonate with abundance, the more abundance you'll attract. It's a feedback loop, a positive one. Every time you focus on what's wrong, what's missing, or what's not working, you are unknowingly reinforcing the frequency of lack. You are essentially telling the universe, there's not enough. And because the universe functions like a perfect mirror, it reflects that belief back to you. It doesn't punish you, it merely matches the signal you're sending. So, instead of attracting abundance and opportunities, you find yourself encountering more of the same, more lack, more struggle, and more proof that resources are scarce. The key question is, what signal are you sending right now? Not the one you think you're sending, not the one you wish you could send, but the actual frequency that's being broadcast through your thoughts, emotions, and habitual internal state. This is what's creating your reality. This is what money responds to. Not your effort, not your hustle, but your internal frequency. If this resonates with you, take a moment to reflect on it. Give this video a like and subscribe to the channel so you can stay connected to this frequency. Now, let me ask you, what's one scarcity thought pattern about money that you're ready to release? Drop it in the comments below. Sometimes, simply naming it is the first step toward making a shift. Here's where it gets even more fascinating. When you shift your internal frequency, it doesn't just help you attract money, it attracts everything you need to thrive: opportunities, the right people, ideas at the right time. You enter a flow state where synchronicity becomes your new normal. You begin to experience the miraculous. What you need shows up before you even ask for it. Doors open that you didn't even know existed. This is not just some mystical concept, it's the result of aligning your internal state with the frequency of abundance. The field around you reorganizes to match your new frequency. I've seen it happen in my own life, and I've witnessed it for countless others. The moment someone stops fighting and starts aligning with the flow of the universe, everything begins to shift. Not overnight necessarily, but inevitably. Once you understand that money is responding to frequency, not effort, you stop wasting energy on the wrong things. You stop overworking, stop grinding yourself down in the name of productivity. Instead, you begin cultivating the internal state that naturally attracts wealth. This is the paradigm shift from doing to being, from forcing to allowing, from effort to alignment. And the beautiful thing is, it's not lazy. It's not passive. In fact, it's one of the most powerful things you can do. When you operate from the right frequency, your actions become effortless. It's not that you aren't working, but you're working in harmony with the universe instead of against it. Think of it like tuning a radio. If you're on the wrong frequency, you'll hear static, no matter how much you turn up the volume or adjust the antenna. You can work harder, try more, but until you dial into the right frequency, you won't hear the signal clearly. Money works in the same way. It's broadcasting on a specific frequency, and if you're not tuned to it, no amount of effort will bring it through. But once you dial into the right frequency, the signal comes through clearly. And suddenly, things begin to feel like flow, like grace. It feels like the universe is conspiring on your behalf. Now, let's be clear about something important. Shifting your frequency doesn't mean you sit around and wait for money to fall from the sky. That's not how manifestation works. A frequency shift requires action, but it's inspired action, not desperate action. It's action that comes from a place of overflow, not depletion. It's action that energizes you, that aligns with who you are becoming, not who you've been. When you are in the right frequency, you'll feel compelled to move in certain directions. You'll have new ideas, meet new people, and see opportunities you didn't notice before. And when you take action based on those impulses, everything unfolds with surprising ease. Not because the universe is doing the work for you, but because you're finally swimming with the current, not against it. This is what Wallace Wattles meant by thinking in a certain way. It's not just positive thinking or affirmations, it's a complete reorientation of your relationship to reality. It's recognizing that you're not a separate entity trying to extract resources from an indifferent universe. You are an expression of the universe itself. And when you align with that truth, when you embody it, abundance becomes your natural state. Now, let's take this even deeper. Your brain is constantly scanning your environment for evidence that supports your beliefs. This phenomenon is called confirmation bias, and it's one of the most powerful forces shaping your experience. If you believe that money is hard to come by, your brain will filter reality to show you all the ways that belief is true. You'll notice the bills, the expenses, the rejections, the closed doors. And because you're focused on that, you'll miss the opportunities, the abundance, the ease that is also present. But when you shift your belief, when you start operating from the frequency of abundance, your brain begins scanning for evidence of that too. Suddenly, you notice things you didn't see before. You notice possibilities. You see synchronicities. You see proof that money can flow easily. And the more you notice it, the more you reinforce the new frequency. The more you reinforce that frequency, the more reality reflects it back to you. It's a positive feedback loop. This is why so many teachings about wealth focus on mindset. Your mind is the tuning mechanism. It sets your frequency. If your mind is locked into scarcity, your frequency will reflect that, no matter how many hours you work. But if you can shift your mind, if you can genuinely embody the belief that abundance is available, your frequency shifts. And when your frequency shifts, your reality must follow. Let's clear up another misconception. This isn't about toxic positivity. It's not about pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about recognizing that your current circumstances are simply a reflection of your past frequency, not a determinant of your future one. You can acknowledge where you are without being anchored to it. You can see the present reality without letting it dictate your internal state. When you can do that, when you can hold the frequency of where you're going rather than where you've been, you begin to pull yourself into a different timeline. This is the essence of quantum physics. All possibilities exist simultaneously until observed. The act of observation collapses the wave function and brings one possibility into material form. In other words, the reality you're experiencing is the one you're observing, the one you're paying attention to, the one you're energetically aligned with. Change what you're observing, change what you're aligning with, and you change the reality that manifests. This is the power of focus. Not just mental focus, but energetic focus. When you focus on lack, you get more lack. When you focus on abundance, you get more abundance. It's simple, but it's not always easy. To focus on abundance when you're surrounded by lack requires faith. It requires you to trust in the invisible before it becomes visible. It requires you to hold a frequency that doesn't yet match your circumstances. And that takes practice. But here's the thing, you're already doing it. You're already holding a frequency. You're already collapsing possibilities into reality through your observation and attention. The question is, are you doing it consciously or unconsciously? Most people do it unconsciously, which is why they keep recreating the same patterns. But when you become conscious of it, when you realize that you have the power to choose your frequency, everything changes. So how do you choose? How do you consciously shift from the frequency of scarcity to the frequency of abundance? It starts with awareness. You need to become aware of your current frequency. Pay attention to your thoughts about money. Pay attention to how your body feels when you think about finances. Pay attention to the stories you tell yourself about why you don't have enough or why it's hard for you. Those thoughts, feelings, and stories are all signals. They are broadcasting a frequency. If that frequency is rooted in lack, that's what you'll keep experiencing. But once you become aware of this, you can start to shift it. Not by fighting it, not by forcing yourself to think positively, but by gently redirecting your attention toward abundance. Start noticing the abundance around you. Look for the evidence that what you want is already here. Start looking for the signs that wealth is already on its way. That subtle shift in focus can begin to change everything. And the more you shift your focus, the more your internal frequency aligns with abundance, and the more your external reality will reflect that alignment. By focusing on abundance, by consciously seeking evidence of flow, by noticing where money comes easily, and by appreciating what you already have, you are beginning to shift your energy. This is energetic work, a practice that might not seem productive by conventional standards. After all, society often views productivity in terms of physical labor and visible results. Yet, this subtle work is the most profound and productive thing you can do because it addresses the root cause rather than merely treating symptoms. It's about shifting your frequency, not just rearranging the surface-level aspects of your life. And once the frequency shifts, everything else falls into place. Now, I want to offer you a simple yet powerful practice. For the next 7 days, every time you think about money, pause. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, what frequency am I broadcasting right now? Am I in scarcity or am I in abundance? If you find yourself in scarcity, because that's likely where most of us default to, due to societal conditioning, don't judge it. Just notice it. There's no need for self-criticism or guilt. Simply acknowledge it and then consciously choose to shift your energy. Think of one thing you're grateful for. It could be something small, a nice meal, the roof over your head, the breath in your lungs. Or it could be something bigger, like a relationship or a past opportunity that led to growth. Think of one time when money came easily, perhaps when a surprise refund came in, or when a sale unexpectedly went through. Reflect on one way you are abundant right now. No matter how small it seems, appreciate it. By doing this, you are making a shift toward the frequency of abundance. Do this every time. This practice may seem small at first, but watch what happens when you repeat it consistently. You'll begin to notice that your baseline frequency begins to shift. You'll find that anxious thoughts about money become less frequent. The scarcity stories you tell yourself won't have the same grip on you. And more importantly, you will begin to see tangible evidence of abundance showing up in your life, small things at first, but then bigger things. Not because you're manipulating the universe, but because you are now tuning into the frequency where abundance already exists. Here's something most people don't realize. Money is already here. Abundance is already present. It's not something you need to create from scratch. It's something you need to allow. It's already flowing through the universe, through the economy, through the collective consciousness. The only question is your frequency open to receiving it? Are you a closed channel, or are you an open one? Are you broadcasting yes or no? Are you aligned with abundance, or are you in resistance to it? This concept is often misunderstood in spiritual teachings. People hear the idea that you create your reality and think it means they're doing something wrong if they're struggling. But it's not about blame. It's about empowerment. You're not creating reality from nothing. You are choosing which reality you experience from the infinite field of possibilities. And the way you select your reality is through frequency. Your internal state is the key to unlocking your potential. The practice I'm describing today barely scratches the surface of how deep this work can go. If you're starting to feel something shift inside of you as you read about frequency and consciousness, then you're ready to dive deeper into this work. I've created a comprehensive guide called Beyond the Frequencies, a quantum guide to consciousness mastery. This guide walks you through the 9 master frequencies and shows you exactly how to shift from unconscious transmission to consciously living as the field itself. If you're ready for that deeper understanding, I've linked it in the pinned comment below. Now, if you're struggling financially, it's important to recognize that this doesn't mean you're bad at manifesting. It simply means your frequency has been tuned to struggle. The good news is, frequencies can be shifted. You're not stuck, you're not broken, you're just tuned to the wrong channel. And the moment you realize that, the moment you take responsibility for your frequency instead of blaming external circumstances, you reclaim your power. This is the frequency of money. It's not complicated. It's not reserved for a special few. It's available to everyone because it operates according to a law, like gravity. Laws don't discriminate. They just work. If you align with the law, you get the result. If you don't, you don't. It's not personal, it's mechanical. Once you understand the mechanics of how it works, you can intentionally align with them. But let's pause here and acknowledge something important. For those of you experiencing genuine financial pressure right now, those of you who are struggling to make ends meet, this can feel frustrating. You might be thinking, "This is easy to say, but I have bills due tomorrow. I don't have time to work on my frequency." And I get it. I've been there. I understand the weight of financial stress. But here's the paradox. The more desperate you feel, the more important this work becomes. Desperation is one of the loudest scarcity signals you can send, and as long as you're operating from that frequency, you'll continue attracting circumstances that perpetuate it. So, even when things are tight, this is when you need to pause and recalibrate your frequency. Not to escape reality, but to shift it. Take 5 minutes, breathe, ground yourself. Connect to gratitude, even if it's just being grateful for the fact that you're still breathing, that you're still here, that you have another chance. This isn't bypassing its survival. It's shifting your nervous system out of panic and into presence. And from that presence, solutions will arise that panic could never see. When you're in scarcity frequency, your perception narrows. Your brain is in survival mode, scanning for threats, not possibilities. But when you shift into abundance frequency, even if it's just for a moment, your perception opens up. You start seeing options. Ideas come to you. You feel inspired to reach out to someone, to try something new, to take a chance. And often, that's where the breakthrough comes from. Not from working harder at the same old patterns, but from shifting your frequency and seeing an entirely new path unfold. This is the real work. Not hustling, not grinding, but becoming so clear, so aligned, so resonant with abundance that it flows toward you effortlessly. And when it does, it doesn't feel like effort. It feels like coming home. It feels like remembering who you actually are beneath all the conditioning and fear. You are not a scarcity-based being living in a scarce universe. You are an abundant expression of an abundant cosmos. And the moment you remember that truth, everything begins to change. Now, I want to hear from you. Think back to one moment in your life when money or an opportunity showed up effortlessly. Maybe it was an unexpected windfall, or maybe it was a chance meeting that led to something incredible. When you weren't forcing it, when you were just open and receptive, and everything seemed to flow naturally. Share that memory in the comments below. It will help anchor you back into that frequency of abundance. Take a moment right now, type this in the comments. I am tuned to abundance, not as a hollow affirmation, but as a declaration, a signal to the universe that you are shifting your frequency. A conscious choice to align with the truth of who you are. This is not a small thing. This is you claiming your place in the frequency of wealth. And if what you've been hearing in this video resonates with something deeper in you, if it touches a part of you that's been waiting to remember this truth, then I invite you to subscribe. Not just to this channel, but to this frequency, to this understanding, to this new way of relating to money, abundance, and life itself. Because the more of us who operate from this frequency, the more the collective field shifts, and the easier it becomes for everyone to access abundance. We're not just changing our individual lives, we're participating in a global shift in consciousness. Let's talk about what happens when you sustain this frequency over time. This isn't a one-time shift. It's a practice, a discipline, a way of being. The longer you maintain it, the more profound the results become. At first, you might notice small things: an unexpected refund, a surprise check, someone paying you back money you forgot about. These are the universe's way of confirming that you're on the right track. Keep going. But as you continue to hold the frequency of abundance, bigger shifts begin to happen. Career opportunities that seemed impossible suddenly become available. Business ideas that felt out of reach start to materialize. Income streams you never considered begin to open up. And it all happens with a quality of ease that feels almost surreal compared to the struggle you're used to. This isn't because the universe is suddenly favoring you. It's because you've finally tuned into the channel where these things exist. This is what it means to live in flow, to be in the current of abundance, rather than fighting against it. And the more you experience it, the more you trust it. The more you trust it, the easier it becomes to maintain the frequency. It's a positive feedback loop that builds momentum over time. But here's where many people get tripped up. They experience a taste of abundance, and then doubt creeps in. They question whether it's real or if they deserve it. They fear that the other shoe will drop. And in that moment of doubt, they drop back into scarcity frequency, and the flow stops. Not because they did anything wrong, but because their frequency shifted back. This is why unwavering faith is crucial. Not faith in a religious sense, though it can include that, but faith in the law itself. Faith that when you hold the frequency of abundance, abundance must appear. It's not optional. It's mechanical. The universe doesn't withhold. It simply reflects. So, if you're experiencing lack, it's not because abundance isn't available. It's because your frequency isn't aligned with it yet. The moment it is, the moment you stabilize in that resonance, the external must match the internal. That's how it works. Think of it like this. You know how a tuning fork works. You strike it, and it vibrates at a specific frequency. And if there's another tuning fork nearby, capable of matching that frequency, it begins to vibrate too, even though nothing physical touched it. That's resonance. That's entrainment. You vibrate at the frequency of abundance, and money, being energy, begins to vibrate in resonance with you. This is why visualization works, but only when it's done correctly. Most people visualize from a place of lack. They imagine having money because they don't have it now. They imagine success because they feel like failures, and that energy of lack is embedded in the visualization, which means they're actually reinforcing scarcity frequency while trying to create abundance. It doesn't work. But when you visualize from a place of already having, from a place of embodiment, from a place where you're feeling what it's like to be abundant right now, that's when visualization becomes potent. You're not reaching for something outside yourself. You're activating something inside yourself. You're tuning the instrument. You're setting the frequency. And once the frequency is set, the universe responds. Let me share something personal. There was a time in my life when I was completely broke, struggling to pay rent broke. I was working constantly, doing everything I was supposed to do, but it wasn't working. I was exhausted, resentful and terrified. One day, I simply stopped. I stopped trying to figure it out. I stopped pushing. I stopped being at war with my circumstances. And that's when things began to change. That's when I realized that abundance wasn't something I needed to chase. It was something I needed to align with. And as soon as I did, everything shifted. In that moment of surrender, something remarkable shifted within me. I found myself sitting in my apartment, overwhelmed and uncertain about the future, but I made a conscious decision to shift my focus. I chose to feel gratitude for what I did have. Despite not knowing how I would pay the rent next month, I was grateful for the roof over my head. Even though the food in my fridge was sparse, I appreciated what I had. I recognized the simple fact that I was alive, breathing, and still had another chance to turn things around. In that moment of genuine gratitude, I felt a deep, almost physical opening inside me, a softness, a trust, a knowing that somehow I was going to be okay. What I didn't do was visualize millions of dollars, nor did I even focus on paying my bills. I simply allowed myself to be present with what was, without resistance, while simultaneously remaining open to what could be. This moment marked a powerful shift. It wasn't about forcing things into being, it was about releasing control and letting the universe work with me. That's when everything began to change. Within a week, an unexpected opportunity presented itself. Within a month, my income had doubled. 6 months later, I found myself more financially stable than I'd ever been, not because I suddenly worked harder, but because I stopped working from a place of scarcity and began working from a place of trust. This is the shift, the frequency change, and it's available to you right now, no matter where you are or what your current circumstances might be. You don't have to wait for circumstances to improve. You don't have to earn the right to feel abundant. You can choose it now, in this moment, regardless of what your bank account shows. Abundance is an internal state first, and only then does it become your external reality. Always. Now, let's talk about how to actually integrate this concept into your life and maintain abundance frequency, especially when you're surrounded by a world that constantly pulls you back into scarcity. Protecting your frequency. The first and most crucial step is to protect your frequency. This means being very selective about what you consume. The news cycle, for example, is designed to keep you in a state of fear, and fear is the complete opposite of abundance frequency. Social media, too, can trap you in comparison, which reinforces scarcity thinking. Even well-meaning friends and family can unknowingly reinforce lack-based beliefs through their own conditioning. To protect your frequency, you need to create space for yourself to reconnect with the truth of who you are. Establishing a daily practice is essential. It doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, simplicity is key. Start by committing to just 15 minutes a day. Spend 5 minutes on conscious breathing. This helps to center your energy and reconnect with your body. Spend another 5 minutes in gratitude, acknowledging the abundance you already have in your life. Even if it feels small, the act of expressing gratitude shifts your internal state. The final 5 minutes can be used to feel into the version of yourself who is already living in abundance. Do this practice consistently for a week and watch as your baseline frequency starts to shift. You will naturally find yourself thinking more abundance-based thoughts, feeling gratitude more frequently, and expecting good things to happen. This new default state is when the magic starts to happen. Your external reality will transform as a result of your internal transformation. Becoming aware of your language. Another important practice is to become aware of your language, especially when it comes to your financial situation. Words are not neutral. They carry energy, and the words you use are powerful creators of your reality. For example, when you say, "I can't afford that," you are broadcasting scarcity. When you say, "Money is always a struggle," you are setting the frequency for more struggle. It's not about lying or pretending that everything is perfect, but about choosing language that aligns with where you're going, not where you've been. Instead of saying, "I can't afford that," try saying, "That's not a priority for me right now," or "I'm choosing to invest my resources elsewhere." Instead of "money is hard," try saying, "I'm learning to receive money with more ease." Feel the difference in energy. The energy of scarcity is heavy and restrictive, while the energy of abundance is light and expansive. The power of giving. Now, let's talk about giving. You might think that giving is the last thing you should focus on when you're in a state of scarcity. But actually, giving is one of the most powerful ways to shift into abundance frequency. Of course, this doesn't mean giving from depletion. It's about giving from overflow. Even small acts of giving, such as donating $1, offering a kind word, or giving your time to someone in need, can create a significant energetic shift. When you give, you are signaling to the universe that you have more than enough, and the universe will respond by proving that truth. This is the circulation principle. Money is energy, and energy must flow. When you hoard out of fear, you block the flow. But when you give from a place of trust, you open it. What you give will always return to you multiplied. However, there's a key point to remember. The giving must come from the right frequency. If you're giving with strings attached, expecting something in return, or doing it out of obligation, that's not abundance frequency. That's manipulation disguised as generosity. True giving comes from a place of genuine overflow, where you feel so connected to the infinite source that giving feels natural, joyful, and effortless. When you give from that place, the return is inevitable, not because you're expecting it, but because you're demonstrating to the universe that you trust the flow. Taking practical action from the right frequency. What about taking practical action? What about applying for jobs, starting businesses, or making investments? Absolutely do all of that, but it's crucial to take action from the right frequency. Action taken from abundance frequency is inspired action. It feels aligned, it energizes you, and it opens doors. On the other hand, action taken from scarcity frequency is desperate action. It feels forced, draining, and it leads to dead ends. The difference lies not in the external actions you take, but in the internal frequency you're operating from. When you're in abundance frequency, opportunities will present themselves to you. You'll receive intuitive nudges, gut feelings about the direction you need to go. You'll meet people who can help you in ways you couldn't have planned. And when you act on those impulses, things will unfold with surprising grace, not because the universe is doing the work for you, but because you are finally working in harmony with it. Think of it like swimming with the current rather than against it. This is the effortless effort, the work that doesn't feel like work because it's aligned with who you truly are. And when you're in that state, productivity multiplies not because you're doing more, but because everything you do is infused with the power of the right frequency. 1 hour of work in abundance consciousness can produce more results than 40 hours of work in scarcity consciousness. That's not an exaggeration. That's the difference between aligned and misaligned energy, reclaiming your power. So here's what I want you to understand deeply. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not unlucky. You're simply tuned to the wrong frequency. And the good news is, frequencies can be shifted right now. You don't need a special degree, a talent, or even time. You just need the willingness to let go of the old story, the willingness to try a new way, the willingness to trust that maybe, just maybe, the universe is actually designed to support you, not oppose you. The universe is not neutral. It's not indifferent. It's responsive. It's intelligent. And it's waiting for you to align with it so it can deliver everything you've been trying to force into existence. You don't have to fight anymore. You don't have to prove anything. You just have to tune in, match the frequency, and let it flow. A call to action. Before we close, I want you to take a moment and think of one action you can take this week that comes from abundance frequency. This is not something you should do, nor something you're forcing yourself to do. It's something that genuinely excites you, something that feels expansive, something that makes you feel more alive. It might be reaching out to someone. It might be starting that project you've been putting off. It might be investing in yourself in a way that feels scary but aligned. Whatever it is, take that action from abundance consciousness and watch what happens. And then come back here and drop one word in the comments. One word that captures the frequency you're choosing. Abundance, flow, trust, expansion. Let that word be your declaration to the quantum field. Let it be your signature, your signal. Because every time you consciously choose your frequency, you're not just changing your own life, you're contributing to the collective shift. You're making it easier for everyone else to access abundance. And that matters. If you're still here, if this message is landing, if something in you recognizes the truth of what we've discussed, then I invite you to subscribe, not just to stay informed, but to stay aligned. To be part of this frequency, to surround yourself with content and community that reinforces the truth of abundance instead of the illusion of scarcity. Because the world will try to pull you back into scarcity. It's conditioned to. But when you have reminders, when you have practices, and when you have a community that's holding the same frequency, you can sustain it. You can build momentum. You can actually shift your life. The more of us who embody this understanding, the more the collective consciousness shifts. And the more the collective shifts, the easier it becomes for everyone to access the truth that abundance is our natural state. We are not here to struggle. We are not here to survive. We are here to thrive. We are here to create. We are here to express the infinite abundance of the universe through our unique existence. This is the real power of money, not the dollars and cents themselves, but the freedom and creative power that money represents. When you approach money from a place of service, when you focus on how you can contribute and uplift others, rather than what you can take, everything changes. The universe responds to that energy. It's not about what you can get, it's about what you can give. And that is where true abundance begins. When your relationship with money shifts from focusing on what you can receive to focusing on what you can give, you tap into an entirely different frequency, one that is higher, more expansive, and more aligned with abundance. This is a subtle but powerful shift that changes the way energy flows in your life. Instead of hoarding and clinging to resources, you become a channel for abundance to flow through you. You stop seeing yourself as a dam trying to hold everything in and start operating as an open vessel through which wealth and opportunities can move freely. Think about the wealthiest individuals in the world, not the ones who hoarded or manipulated, but the ones who genuinely created value, solved problems, and made life better for millions of people. They didn't get wealthy by focusing on becoming rich. Instead, they became wealthy by focusing on creating something that served others. By solving problems, providing value, and improving the lives of others, wealth flowed to them naturally. That's the law of the universe. Give value, receive value not as a transaction, but as a form of circulation. Money, like all energy, must flow. And when you contribute to the flow, the universe responds by bringing more of it into your life. The more value you create, the more wealth comes your way, but not in the way that many people expect. It's not a direct exchange, but a natural consequence of being in alignment with abundance. So, if you want to permanently shift your frequency around money, you must first shift your intention. Ask yourself, what do I want to create with money? Who do I want to help? What impact do I want to have? Shift your focus from accumulation to contribution. Instead of thinking about how you can receive, think about how you can give. Focus on what you can create for the world, and the world will reflect that abundance back to you. When your focus shifts from getting to giving, from receiving to contributing, you elevate yourself into a frequency where money can't help but flow to you. You stop being a closed circuit, constantly hoarding resources out of fear, and become an open channel for the flow of abundance. But here's the key. You don't have to wait until you have money to operate this way. You can start embodying the frequency of contribution right now. You can give value now, even if it's in small ways, like sharing knowledge, offering a kind word, or being present for someone in need. Every act of genuine service raises your frequency. Every time you operate as an expression of abundance rather than as someone who is seeking it, you reinforce that abundance frequency. The more you focus on giving, the more you attract. This is why people with a strong sense of purpose tend to attract money more easily than people who are just focused on getting rich. When you are aligned with purpose, you are in alignment with the flow of life itself. Money becomes a natural byproduct of that alignment, not the goal but the result. Not the destination, but a tool along the way. To understand this more fully, let's explore an energetic framework that can tie all of these concepts together. Imagine a scale of consciousness, with the lowest frequency being survival consciousness. This is a fear-based, reactive state where everything is about just surviving, not failing, not losing, not running out. It's pure scarcity, and this is where most of humanity operates, especially when it comes to money. When you're in survival consciousness, every action is motivated by the need to protect what you have and avoid losing it. The universe mirrors that back to you in the form of constant struggle. A step up from survival consciousness is security consciousness. At this level, you're no longer in pure survival mode, but you're still focused on protection. The fear isn't as intense, but it's still there. You worry about maintaining what you have, and you're operating from the belief that there is only so much to go around. This frequency is more stable than survival consciousness, but it's still a contracted state that reflects the belief that there isn't enough. Next, we have comfort consciousness. This is where a lot of middle-class thinking resides. At this level, you have enough to be comfortable, but you're not expanding or growing. You're just maintaining what you have, not seeking to build on it. While there's nothing wrong with being comfortable, this is a plateau. Comfort consciousness is a neutral frequency. The universe doesn't mirror back loss at this level, but it doesn't mirror back growth either. You're stuck in the same place, unable to move forward until your frequency shifts. Above comfort is expansion consciousness. This is where things start to get exciting. In this state, you no longer see money as something to hoard. You see it as energy to circulate. You start taking calculated risks, investing, creating, and trusting that there is more where that came from. As you open yourself to expansion, opportunities begin to multiply. The universe starts to respond to your willingness to take risks and create growth, and things begin to compound. This is the frequency where wealth truly begins to build momentum. At the highest level, we reach contribution consciousness, which represents pure abundance frequency. At this level, you are so deeply connected to the source of infinite abundance that your entire focus is on what you can give, not what you can get. You operate from a place of giving, knowing that the universe will always replenish what you offer. Paradoxically, this is where the most wealth flows, not because you're trying to get it, but because you've become a clear channel for it to flow through. You're no longer in your own way, and you're allowing the infinite energy of abundance to express itself through you. So, where are you operating from right now? Be honest with yourself. Most of us fluctuate between survival and security, occasionally touching comfort, rarely experiencing true expansion, and almost never stabilizing in contribution. But the good news is that you can consciously choose to move up the scale. You can practice expanding your frequency until it becomes your baseline. The power of awareness. It starts with awareness. Notice when you're in scarcity. Pay attention to the thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations that come up when you're in this state. Don't judge yourself for it, just notice. And then, once you're aware, you can consciously choose to shift. Ask yourself, if I were operating from abundance right now, what would I be thinking? How would I be feeling? What would I be doing differently? Then, practice being that version of yourself, even if it feels like acting at first. Even if your circumstances don't align yet, practice embodying the frequency of abundance until it becomes natural. This is the work. It's not about external hustle, it's about internal cultivation. It's not about forcing outcomes, it's about embodying the state that naturally produces those outcomes. The more you practice shifting your frequency, the more stable your vibration will become. The more stable your frequency, the more consistent your results will be. Eventually, you'll reach a point where abundance isn't something you're trying to manifest. It will simply be who you are. It will be your default state. And as that happens, money will flow to you as naturally as breath flows through you. Addressing systemic challenges. Now, for those of you who might be thinking, this all sounds great, but what about systemic issues? What about economic inequality? What about people who work hard and still struggle? These are valid and important questions. Yes, there are systemic barriers that make wealth creation more challenging for some than for others. Yes, privilege plays a role in the financial success of many. These issues are real, and they must be addressed. However, here's what is also true. Consciousness transcends systems. Frequency operates at a level prior to circumstance. While external systems can create challenges, your internal state is what determines how you respond to those challenges. You can acknowledge the systemic issues, but you must also take full responsibility for your internal state, because if you allow these systems to dictate your internal frequency, you're locking yourself into victim consciousness. And victim consciousness is the lowest frequency. It guarantees struggle. The most empowering stance is this. Yes, there are challenges. Yes, some people have advantages I don't have. And I'm still going to operate from abundance frequency because that's where my power lies. When you refuse to let external circumstances define your internal state, you empower yourself to create your reality. This doesn't mean you deny the challenges you face, but it does mean you choose not to let them dictate your frequency. When enough people make this shift, when enough people refuse to let external circumstances dictate their internal state, the systems themselves begin to shift. Change happens from the inside out. Always. The shift to abundance. So don't use systemic barriers as an excuse to stay in scarcity frequency. Use them as motivation to master your frequency even more deeply. When you can maintain abundance consciousness in the face of real challenges, you become unstoppable. You become a force of nature. You become living proof that consciousness creates reality. And that's what the world needs right now. Not more people complaining about how hard it is. Not more people focusing on how unfair the world is. The world needs more people who demonstrate that there's another way, people who embody the truth, that abundance is available when you align with it. The world needs people who are breaking the old paradigm by simply refusing to participate in it anymore. This is revolution, but not in the streets. It's a revolution in consciousness itself, living in alignment with abundance. Right now, in this very moment, you are surrounded by infinite potential, infinite possibilities, infinite resources. The universe is not withholding anything from you. It's simply waiting for you to tune in to match the frequency of what you desire. The moment you do, when you stabilize in that resonance, everything you've been working toward will begin to materialize not through effort, but through alignment. Not through force, but through flow. Money responds to frequency, not effort. This is the teaching, this is the transmission, and now it's your turn to embody it. Because I can tell you this truth 1,000 times, but until you feel it in your body, until you see it reflected in your life, it's just information. Make it transformation. Shift your frequency. Watch your reality change. Final thoughts. Consider bookmarking this video and returning to it each morning for the next week. Let it recalibrate your frequency before you step into your day. And if someone comes to mind while you're watching someone who's stuck in the scarcity loop, someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. When you share these principles, you're not just helping them, you're deepening your own alignment with abundance. By sharing, you're declaring to the universe that you understand the law of circulation. And that declaration amplifies everything we've talked about today. You're not just changing your life, you're changing the world. Because every person who steps into abundance consciousness makes it easier for the next person. Every person who breaks free from scarcity thinking weakens the collective grip of lack. Every person who embodies wealth as an internal state rather than an external achievement shifts the entire paradigm. You matter. Your frequency matters. Your choice to align with abundance instead of scarcity ripples out in ways you can't even imagine. So choose it now, today, this moment. Let this be the turning point. Let this be the moment you remember who you really are, an infinite being in an infinite universe, with infinite resources available to you, the moment you tune into them. You are not separate from abundance, you are an expression of it. And the moment you truly know that, everything will shift. Now go live from the frequency of wealth and watch your entire world transform.